Thank you for tuning back in. Today's episode is very special, near and dear to my heart. As you know from my last video, I just got back from Ecuador from a plant medicine retreat where I met some of the most incredible people inside and out, and where I had the opportunity to hike and explore the beautiful mountains of one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to in my life, Ecuador. A part of my heart is definitely still there. I thought I might need a little bit more time to integrate this, everything that I learned, but I wanted to go ahead and record this video because I just felt called to talk about it, because honestly, my heart just looms so loudly for everything, every person, and pretty much every feature of that country. So I wanted to go ahead and record it now while it's still fresh and on my mind. So a lot had changed since my last video. One of my best friends, Stephanie, was actually supposed to join me. She kind of got screwed over by the app Hopper, the travel booking app, and was no longer able to go. So for those of you that know me well, you know I'm very, very close with my mom. We always have been. We have such a beautiful relationship that I'm so grateful for. So when I told my mom that me and Stephanie were going on this retreat, she was really nervous. Just because I'm an only child, I'm a female that doesn't speak Spanish, and it's a scary world out there. You know, Ecuador was a beautiful country, and I felt safe, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But there is a lot of articles about sex trafficking when it comes to, you know, countries like Mexico or Ecuador, or I mean, even Florida, honestly. It exists, and so it's something to be aware of, you know, when you travel, especially when you don't know the language. So when I told my mom I was going to Ecuador, she was really nervous about it to begin with, but when I told her Stephanie was no longer coming, I could tell in her voice she was not okay. So that was really tough because, you know, I love my mom with all my heart, and I didn't want to go on this trip and to know that she's worried about me. So, you know, I just told her, like, I love you so much, but you have to just trust that I'm gonna be okay. I have to do this. So to ease my mind and ease her mind, because I'm not gonna lie, I was scared too. I don't speak Spanish. I've never traveled out of the US by myself before. And you know, I felt comfortable with Stephanie because Stephanie is one of my closest friends. I trust her with my whole heart, and she speaks Spanish. So I felt safe just knowing that Stephanie would be with me. So when Stephanie wasn't able to come, I had to resort to a plan B. So I knew I was meant to go on this trip, and we had a group chat going. The retreat that I went to was called Casa Del Sol. So we had a group chat on WhatsApp, and there was one girl in particular. Her name was Denise. Shout out to Denise. I love you to the moon and back. I reached out to her because, first off, she was one of the only females in the group responding. And her number said 777, the last couple of digits, and 777 is my lucky number. So I reached out to her directly. I just sent this pretty long direct message to her, which is out of the norm for me because, you know, the older I get, I don't really consider myself an introvert anymore. I think that was my way of hiding from the beauty of the world. And I discovered that on this trip. But I've called myself an introvert for so long, and that introverted side of me was like, okay, I gotta do this. If I'm gonna feel comfortable and safe, I'm gonna reach out to this girl, and I'm gonna see if I can kind of have like a little buddy on the trip. So I reached out to her, and I was just like, hey, you know, I was supposed to have a friend go with me, but she's no longer able to go. Is there any chance that you could tell me, you know, what hotel you're staying at before, and maybe I can book at the same one, and maybe we could share a cab together. It would just make me feel comfortable. You know, I know this is very forward, but please let me know what you think. This girl responded and was just so sweet, and it actually aligned to where our flights came in at the same time, and we stayed actually the layover lounge in Quito, Ecuador, which is kind of like a little area in the airport where there's like recliners and like snacks, and you can stay overnight if you have a layover, because we had an early flight the next morning. So anyways, she was super awesome. We actually ended up staying in the same room together. We stayed at a hostel called Hosteria. I always forget the name. Ishluma? I'll have to put the link below because I always butcher the name. Anyways, it was a beautiful hostel. Shout out to Peter and Steve. They were both so awesome. But yeah, so Denise and I stayed at the layover lounge together. And then the next morning when we got up for our flight from Quito to Loja, we met Alaric, who has my heart. He's just the sweetest. He's from Singapore. Basically, a way to describe Alaric, I would say, is my inner child. He was just a ray of sunshine, had so much happiness, brought so much laughter. And then we also met Truman, who is just one of the most intelligent, strongest, bravest people I've ever met in my life. Just an overall amazing person. So grateful to have met them all. So we met the next day at the airport. So when we got to Loja, things got interesting because my intention for this retreat and for the plant medicine was to gain courage and self-love. So I very quickly had to face courage in multiple elements. So when we all landed in Loja, Truman and Alaric had a taxi to their hotel, which was in a different hotel. And they asked us, they were like, hey, are you guys good to go with the taxi? Peter is the person that owned the hostel that we were staying at. He arranged our taxi. So me and Denise grab our stuff and we're walking towards the taxi because we see the sign with our name on it. And Peter's there and we haven't met Peter. So Peter goes, hi, are you Logan and Denise? And we shook our hands. We were super nice to him, but I started thinking, I'm like, how does he know what we look like? We've never met Peter. We've just emailed him. So I started getting in my head. I started being like, how does he know? We were nice to him. We didn't, really do anything about it, but we walked towards the taxi and because there was a sign with our name on it. And then there was this random man dressed in a suit, very fancy clothes from Ecuador. As we were walking to the taxi, he was like, hey guys, I'm going to be joining you in your taxi ride. My stomach started turning. And then I saw 666. You guys know 666 either means a warning or it means readjust your thoughts, you're overthinking. So I figured out in this case at the end of the cab ride that it was telling me to not worry and to readjust my thoughts. But at the time I mistaked the numbers and I thought it was warning us. And I told Denise, because Denise kind of knew how I was at this point. We had gotten to know each other and I was just like, Denise, I just saw 666. How does he know who we are? Who is this man? So I was thinking it was a quick taxi ride to the hostel, but luckily we looked back at messages where Jimena told us that the hostel was an hour and a half from the airport. So we got in the taxi, but the whole time my stomach was turning. I was so scared because who is this man? They were talking in Spanish. He would kind of talk to us and get to know us. But at this point, I had no internet connection. So I was just like freaking the fuck out. I was like, this can't be how it ends. And luckily, I had this beautiful necklace, which is from Sweet Leor Alexandra. She sells these necklaces. It's an amulet. It's for protection. So I just kept rubbing this necklace and I'm actually saying this affirmation that my friend Abby gave me. I am safe, I am love, I am light. I said that affirmation the entire way. Because at this point I was convinced. I was like, oh my God, this is how it ends. Like they're gonna take us. I was prepared to fight, don't get me wrong. I was brewing up ideas in my head. I was kind of telling Denise, but we had no internet connection. We didn't know where we were going. Luckily, we made it to the hostel. It was fine. It was just a random nice man. But it was an hour and a half long ride of misery and another way of embodiment of courage. The funny thing is, when this was happening, I wasn't even really worried about my death. I was guilty and feeling sad about my mom. I was like, oh my God, if I die, what is my mom gonna do? And it was really hard because of course I want to live this beautiful life. There's still so much more to live, but it was fucking terrifying. The way that felt on so little of sleep, it was rough. So we made it. Then that night I had the most amazing massage and Reiki healing session I've ever had in my life. It was the Reiki that did it for me. This woman poured her heart and soul, and it was all in Spanish. It was so beautiful. She had a crystal and a candlelight. I felt like a new person when she finished that. And that kind of brought me back to life. And the hostel we stayed at was so beautiful. The people that owned it were so kind. First I was like, fuck Peter. But then I was like, no, Peter's great, because Peter arranged our taxi. We later found out that my email has my picture on it. And not to mention, Denise is black. I'm a tall white American. We were pretty recognizable at the airport. There was all, Ecuadorians there. So of course he recognized us. We were easy to spot. But it just at the time, with all the movie Taken, all the things I've seen, my mind just... So we got to the hostel, we really enjoyed ourselves. It was so beautiful. I met so many great people, and that's actually where we met another one of my amazing forever friends, John. It's actually funny, the first time we met was when we were trying to have breakfast, and at this point, I was being, I would say, standoffish to any male that came past me. Because I was trying to speak to this woman in Spanish about breakfast, and she was asking what my room number is. So some guy came to help translate and asked what my room number was, and I just ignored him because I was like, I'm not giving you my room number. And I was just being crazy at this point. And then John was at a table next to us, and this couple had came up and was like really sweet and was like, hi, I'm so-and-so. If you want to sit with us, you're welcome to. Of course, I didn't really want to sit with them, but I was super sweet to her. I was like, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you. Blah, blah, blah. We small talked. And then John was like, hey, so what are y'all up to today? He hadn't introduced himself yet. And I was just like, I'm not sure. And then I just kind of turned my face to ignore him, because at this point, like I said, I didn't want to speak to any male. Because at this point I was convinced that everybody wanted to capture me. So, and then Denise goes, oh, you're John, right? You're at the retreat with us. And then at that moment I was like, okay, Logan, stop being that way. This is a person going to the retreat. So then I explained to him, I was like, sorry, I was so standoffish. This is what happened. We all got a good laugh. We all really connected. My favorite part was the night before the retreat. We all had dinner together, and we couldn't drink alcohol, obviously. So we all had a tea party. And man, the amount of laughter I did with Denise and John was just amazing. I was in tears from laughter. It was just so funny to me. And honestly, towards the end of it, I realized that John reminded me of my stepdad, Jason, and Denise reminded me of my mom. So together, they were just the perfect, hilarious couple. It made me so happy. I felt so safe with them. John also rode with me and Denise to stop in town so I could get my amazing blanket, because I was freezing cold. I got the most beautiful Ecuadorian blanket that I literally stayed attached to the whole entire trip. It kept me so safe. So when we got to the retreat, I met the rest of the team. I met Brogan, who she's a very sweet girl from London who actually lives in Sweden. I kind of found a place for everybody at the retreat, and I would say Brogan would have been my sister, or the other Gemini twin, because Brogan and Logan, very beautiful, kind heart. And then there was sweet Susan. Susan reminded me of my grandma. She was a 75-year-old woman who just had the innocence of a child and just the most kindest heart. Such a beautiful woman. And then, let's see, we had Rachel. Rachel came a little bit later into the group during our first San Pedro hike, but she was just beautiful inside and out, radiated magnetic energy, and was just so kind and helpful and so sweet. And then there was Dutch. Dutch was just one of the kindest people. He was really tough to crack at first. He was very quiet and to himself, and took some time to open up, but I could see past that, and past that was such a kind and gentle person that just wanted to be understood. And he stopped everything he was doing to help everybody. During all the hikes, he was from the he had a background from being in the Army, so I think he had to deal with a couple things that kind of made him how he was. But when he finally did open up, it was such a blessing to hear his story. And he was also one of the kind people that rode with me to the airport on my way back, so I didn't have to go alone. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody else. And then let's talk about the retreat members, the healers, and just the amazing people that changed my life other than the people I came with. Jimena, she felt like a second mother. She was just so magnetic and kind and knew all the right things to say to everybody during the ceremonies. Santiago, he was the perfect divine masculine. It was like their husband and wife. So it was like divine feminine, divine masculine. Jimena was able to help all the women that really needed to be seen, and Santiago helped the divine masculine, and together it was just so freaking beautiful. And they usually don't do ceremonies together, so we were extremely lucky to have gotten to see both of them in action together. And the music they sang to us was just music you don't hear. And then sweet Mateo, oh, my whole heart. I have so much love for that boy. I knew actually when I first watched their YouTube that I was gonna love Mateo, mainly because I have a really great relationship with Kambo, and he was the Kambo facilitator. But he's so much more than just the Kambo facilitator. He is just so gentle and kind and so funny, and he participated in the Ayahuasca ceremony with us, and just, gosh, I've never met somebody like Mateo, but I have so much love and respect for that boy. It's not even funny. But anyways, we'll get to that. So let's start with San Pedro. So the first experience we had was a really empowering sweat lodge. There was no medicine included. It was just intense. Like, it was like 10 of us, maybe actually 12, because there was also Jimena and Santiago, where we got stones from this fire made in the shape of a heart. So beautiful. And it was tough. It was very tough. There was 3 rounds, and by the end of it, you just feel like depleted, but empowered. So we did that on the first day, and God, I had the most delicious vegan food. I never for a second thought that I would even consider going vegan, and I probably still won't, but I'm less inclined to eat meat, especially pork or beef. But man, if I had somebody cook for me the food that I had at that retreat, I probably could go vegan. It was so delicious and all made with love. So that was the first day. The next day we had a San Pedro hike where we drank a green juice, and that was it. If you guys know me and you know me well, first off, I'm a huge foodie and I'm obsessed with water. I think more than food, I'm like hooked to the leg with water. But we weren't allowed to drink water during the ceremonies because it was like you're fasting in honor of the ceremony type of thing. So the hike was absolutely freaking incredible. I really liked San Pedro. The funny thing is I realized that I work better with masculine energy versus feminine energy, because San Pedro and peyote are masculine, ayahuasca is feminine. And of course we'll get there. I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself. But yeah, San Pedro, I loved it. It was amazing. I had 1 cup at this point. Rapé is the tobacco that they shoot up your nose, and I'm gonna post a video at the end of a couple clips from the retreat. That stuff was tough. It'll make you cry and it's not pleasant, but it does feel amazing and it makes you feel super grounded. So it is worth it. But yeah, so we're on the San Pedro hike, and there was a couple of the women that weren't doing so well with it, and I guess that has to do with the masculine energy. One of them in particular was Brogan, and Denise, but Denise was in good hands. She had a couple of the men helping her out, so I knew she was safe. Brogan was more introverted and quiet, and we had actually connected before the hike, and we just kind of talked about, the way we are, and just kind of got to know each other a little bit. And so at the retreat, I saw her by herself, and I could see the look in her eye, and she wasn't doing well. So I came up to her and I was like, hey, how are you doing? Like, do you want company? Do you want to be alone? And she's like, I'd love some company. So I sat by her and we just talked. And actually the first time I did rapé, Truman helped me. He helped me understand that if I just sit down and breathe, it'll help it calm down. And so I took that advice and I delivered it to Brogan because she wasn't doing well. So we sat down together in a meditative state and we just breathed. And it helped her for a second, but she still was just feeling sick. So I could just see she just needed some love. So we kind of held each other, like I put my hand across her and she put her arm on mine. We were just kind of rocking back and forth and I was just giving her all my love. And then Jimena came up to me and was like, hey, Logan, she's like, you're so sweet for wanting to help Brogan, but when people are going through this, we have to give them their space to let them, heal or purge out what needs to be done. And I understood, and so I told Brogan, I said, just know I'm sending you so much love, but I'm gonna go walk away. And she was like, okay, and she just started tearing up, and I just felt so sad because I just wanted to help her. And Jimena was just like, we're exchanging energy when we do that. And so I understood, and I just kept walking, and I just remember I started tearing up because I felt so sad to know that somebody felt so alone and that I couldn't help. And then I took my second cup later that day and things got really heavy. And I think it was because I had maybe carried some energy that wasn't mine unintentionally. And because it was such a beautiful ceremony, we were on the mountaintop and Jimena, Rachel, and Susan, the woman that I told you, the 75-year-old woman, they ended up kind of doing the ceremony. And it was all about motherhood. And it was just so beautiful. And they're just talking about their mothers and their children and how much love there is and how stressful it is to be a mother. And man, Susan was just like, I have 2 kids of my own. Neither of them had children. Like, you guys should have children. It's such a blessing, but you'll never understand the pain it feels to be a mother, the worry, the fact that we didn't raise you to be this way. We didn't raise you to live life in fear. We didn't raise you to be stuck in your way, just all these beautiful things. And there was not a dry eye. There was not a dry eye. Everybody was just in their feels. It was just so emotional. And I just thought of my mom and how scared she was for me to go on this retreat and just how tough it must be to just love a child so much that you just can't even, that you can't always protect them. You can't always be there. And I just felt so much love and gratitude. And Susan just reminded me of one of my grandmothers, Mama. She almost even looked like her. It was so crazy. And lots of tears were shed. And man, I just kept thinking of when we were walking towards the end, Alaric, he was so hilarious. He was feeling the medicine so strongly. He was just smiling and just like, he's like, this is what God feels like just being just hilarious. It was almost too much to handle because everybody was just experiencing it in different ways. But man, just a ray of sunshine, really. No one can fault him for feeling such bliss, because we all shared different things. We shared the ceremony, and we all took a flower and said our prayers. And mine was about my mom and just how grateful I am and how I never realized so much and how that love that she has for me, I'm that love. And so my prayer was to my mom and all the moms out there. And then, man, I don't want to share everyone's story because everybody's story was different and extremely intense, and I don't want to disregard boundaries, but some of the stories people were telling was just so, it put you in your feels. It was very sad because everybody has a story, a very deep story at that. So anyways, we got through that first ceremony, and then the next ceremony we had was another San Pedro ceremony, and this one was different. It wasn't hiking. We went to this area above the mountains in this Maloka type area, and I started my period that morning. And granted, I wasn't supposed to start my period until this week. It came early. So I was not prepared for anything. If you guys know me well, I'm usually over prepared, but I think part of myself was still in denial of if I was even going to this retreat because of Stephanie not coming. So I underpacked, which is also not me. I didn't bring I didn't bring tampons, I didn't bring floss, I didn't bring a lot of things that I needed. But luckily everybody was willing to lend me everything I needed, so I was very well taken care of. A couple of the girls gave me some tampons to get me by. I was in so much pain. I felt needles just in my uterus. It was one of the most painful periods I've ever had. And I told Jimena, I was like, hey, is it okay to take medicine? I'm in a lot of pain. And she was like, this is gonna be a very good opportunity for healing for you. She's like, just stay strong. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna be on my period all week. I'm gonna be in pain all week. I was not doing okay. During the ceremony, she gave me some sage and some other type of herb. She was like, put this in your belly button and say a prayer. It'll protect the womb. I was just like, okay. So I was like laying on my side. We had taken our San Pedro. I was in pain for like 30 minutes, just like, and then all of a sudden the pain was gone. The San Pedro took away my period cramps completely, like completely. I was like, what? Like, how is this even possible? Intimate, not to mention it's a masculine energy. But anyways, so we had done a very beautiful ceremony. Jimena and Santiago were singing just the most beautiful songs for us. We all had a moment to step on this cheetah rug, or this cheetah tapestry of some sort, cheetah skin basically, or leopard skin, and get on and kind of just speak our truth. And when it came for my turn to speak, I really didn't have a whole lot to say, except for that I was grateful because my pain was gone. Sometimes this medicine makes it really hard to speak words. So I took the medicine and my pain was gone. I sat down and I just said that I was grateful. And Santiago kind of spoke for the men. Jimena spoke for the women. So when Jimena spoke for me, of course they sang a beautiful song for each person. She told me that, how sacred the period is and how the pain that I feel is my relationship with the divine masculine and the divine feminine together, and that this is a healing experience, and that the pain that I was feeling is because of all that I know from divine masculine and divine feminine, which makes sense because I've been in a wounded state for so long, that I've always had period cramps for as long as I can remember. And that makes so much sense because, like when you let in sexual energy into your body and it's not with true love, it makes sense that energy will stay and cause you pain. And she just said the most beautiful things, and then she told me she loved me, and my heart just felt so restored and just so much love, and I was just so grateful. And I didn't have cramps since. And I've been saying for a long time that I don't want kids. And right now I really do mean that, but I am gonna stop saying that because during this time, I felt so powerful to be on my period. I felt like a divine being. And then we had the opportunity to take peyote, which is something that was like an extra that we weren't even really supposed to have. And when I took the peyote, all the self-love I was looking for was right there. I felt so powerful and so one with myself. And I saw all these colors in my head of just red, blue, yellow, green, just of a triangle of just energy. And all the self-love I was looking for was right there inside my body. And I felt so one with myself, and like nobody on the earth mattered except me. And I never thought I'd feel so powerful on my period. And they had a moment where all the women got together for the ceremony to cut up some fruit and get a offering for San Pedro. But Jimena said, look at me. She's like, Your body is doing something very sacred right now. You're already considered working, so you're excused from this. Go sit and relax. So all the women, prepared this offering, and I just sat. And I remember the way that felt. I felt amazing. I felt so more powerful than ever. And I was on my period. And I just couldn't fathom the fact that for the first time in my life, I was grateful to be on my period and to feel no pain and to feel like this majestic being that didn't care about a man, that didn't care about anybody. It was me. I was the only one that mattered. I always give so much to people, and I never give to myself. And at this moment, it was like, this moment is about me. I'm a powerful divine feminine. And I'll never forget the way that felt. San Pedro healed my cramps, and peyote made me feel the self-love I've been longing for my whole life. And it just makes me emotional to think about, because it was just so raw. And I just learned that I need to give to myself first. You can't pour with an empty cup. So anyways, and then we had some mushrooms. I only had a little baby microdose, but I was just feeling so good. Everybody was just, God, these people, I'll just never forget. If you guys watch this, just know I have so much love in my heart for you, for all of you, every single one of you. We all realized very quickly that we were leading each other home, and that it was no secret or no coincidence that we all chose to come to this retreat at the very same time. And I'm so grateful, because I have so much love. I've never connected with people that I just met so quickly. And it was one of those things where it was like we didn't even have a lot in common. The one thing we had in common was love and respect for each other. And we all just bent over backwards so easily to help each other. And it was never one-sided. It was like we all contributed. So that was my experience with San Pedro and peyote. Definitely two of my favorites. Ayahuasca got a little bit tricky. Of course, Kambo, my relationship with that is so amazing. I got 5 on this side and I got 6 on this side. Both fantastic experiences. I asked Mateo if it was female or male frogs, and he said it was a mixture, and that it was female and a male frog that made love during the energy of the full moon, and that it was a very loving energy. And I absolutely attest to that, because I felt so amazing taking this combo. My purge was the most subtle, easy purge I've ever experienced. So that was awesome. So let's get to ayahuasca. This was the toughie, and I knew it was. I was so terrified. My intention was for her to be gentle with me. And I'll tell you, she was very gentle with me. Now, the message I got was not easy. It's one of the scariest things that you'll ever imagine, but since I came here with the intention for courage, it was delivered to me in the most gentle way, and I felt that, even though it wasn't easy to hear. So we had all sat in our groups. I sat in between Dutch and Alaric, and a little further down the line was John, and Dutch was the first one to drink his cup. I was the second, and then John was like the 5th or the 6th, but within like 5 minutes, he already started purging. And so I got nervous as fuck, because I was like, oh my God, he took his cup after me. It's coming. I started to feel my whole body tingle, as if like I could feel it was like my legs especially. I could feel something was happening. I was so nervous. Mateo reminded us to, whenever we start to go down a bad experience, to come back to our breath, and that'll always keep us safe. So I had this crystal, this selenite crystal in my hand the whole time. And I could feel it. And my ayahuasca, it was weird. It wasn't me doing it. She took control of my body, and she wrapped me around in a blanket. Again, this was all about the mother womb, all of it, because she tucked me into my blanket. I had 2 different blankets. I had a big blanket and I had my red blanket that I bought. I could feel her taking control of my body and literally tucking me in, like as if I was in a womb. And what she does is she scans your whole body, and I could feel her just from all the way down. Just, she knew I was on my period. So she tucked me in, and I was just breathing. And at one point I had to take control of my body, because I was like, no, I have to take control. I have to make sure I'm safe. I had watched so many different YouTube videos on what I thought it would be, and it was nothing like I thought. I didn't go off into like another galaxy, because I asked her to be gentle. So I took my crystal and I put it on my heart, and I said, I got you, Logan, I got you, because she was literally taking control of my body. When I closed my eyes, I could see all these different colors and visuals, and I saw her eyes. She had green eyes. They were like snake eyes. And the first vision that I got was one of the most painful things that I could ever imagine. And my biggest fear in being that courage was part of my intention. I knew I had to see this, because what I saw my mother aging. It was so vivid. I saw her hair turning white and gray, and me next to her, and I watched my entire life as a child, just as if it was in fast forward motion of us both aging together. And the message I got was that my mom's not going to be here forever, and that I have to learn to be able to take care of myself. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to see in my life, because it wasn't just my imagination, it was ayahuasca showed me her, and it was very vivid, it was very clear. And there was people around me just purging their guts out, and it was so heavy because I was trying to focus on myself, but I kept accidentally losing track and focusing on the people next to me throwing up. I never actually purged from ayahuasca except through yawn and through tears. But God, I just wanted to start sobbing. But I couldn't. I got in my head too much. I was like, no, I'm going to disrupt everybody. I cried a couple of tears, but very quiet, soft tears. And I just felt my heart just in so much pain. And I just thought of my mom, and I was like, I'm gonna go visit her. And so I'm gonna go see her actually this weekend. And I know that I'm lucky and that I still have time with her, but to really know and to really see that was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. And I'm grateful because I know that ayahuasca was very gentle with me, and she could have showed me in such a harsh way, but she did it in the most tender way. And I know she did it for my own good. She did it to open my eyes and to let me be more present, because there was a couple people at the ceremony that some parents had already passed away. Sweet Truman had lost his brother, his mom, and his dad, all back to back to back. And that's part of why he travels the world and lives his life as a nomad to explore. And when I told him that, he was like, yeah, you want to be present, and I need to spend more time with my mom, because I'm grateful and lucky that I know she still has time to come. But nobody's forever, and God, I've never seen it so clearly before. And it was not easy. It was the most painful thing I think I've ever experienced, but in the most gentle way. It almost doesn't make sense. So anyways, I got past that. And then ayahuasca took the crystal in my hand and started rubbing it all over my body, down my back, in my womb area, in my heart. She took control and was just rubbing it, and I didn't really understand why. I think it was for protection, if I'm not mistaken. And so as that stage kind of cleared, Mateo came up to me and was like, hey, how are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm doing better now, because at this stage I started to kind of calm down and come back to myself. And he goes, do you want more medicine? I was like, It's like, I do, but I'm really scared. And he said, if you're scared, that might mean even more of a reason to get more medicine. And I said, okay. And so I went to the altar, I took more medicine, and this experience was a lot more gentle. I told her to be gentle with me again. Very soft, very tender-hearted, and at this very moment in time, I couldn't handle going too much deeper within myself. So this experience was about self-love. I faced courage, and then I faced self-love because I don't know if you see this finger. This finger has been, since the beginning of this year, something I've been very ashamed of. I've been hiding it, even on videos, and been very insecure about it. It's one of those things where I still don't really know what it is. I've gone to the doctor. It's not a fungus, but I've clipped it. It's gotten very small. I have medicine that I put in it. I don't know what it is. It's gotten a little bit better, but my message was, so you see it's on my wedding finger. My message from ayahuasca was to love this finger, was to stop being ashamed of it, was to allow it to heal. Because it's no coincidence that this is taking place on my wedding finger when one of my biggest desires is to meet my soulmate and to fall in love and to get married. But I've been allowing so many of the wrong people and wrong energies to come into my life, and I deserve so much better. And don't get me wrong, all the people that have been in my life were here for a purpose and were here to teach me. But from this moment forward, I'm going to preserve my energy, and I'm going to take better care of myself, and I'm going to take care of me first, and I'm going to do me first. And I'm going to allow this beautiful healing finger to actually heal. And I'm not going to be ashamed of it anymore. Because yeah, it's not ideal, but this is a part of my healing process. And this has to do with the wounded masculine energy I've been allowing just so many of the wrong people to enter my space. And it's like I forget who I am. And these period cramps in itself were a message that that's not how it should be. There's so many wounds, and your energy is so sacred. When you sleep with another person, you take on their energy. So I'm gonna do better, and I'm gonna be so much more selective on who I allow in my space and if they're worthy. And I'm gonna learn, and I'm not gonna repeat the same mistakes. And I'm so grateful. And after that ayahuasca ceremony, we started at 8 p.m. We didn't finish until like 4 in the morning the next day. I kept waiting for the sun to come out. And after that, we did Kambo. That's why I ended up doing 6 dots, because I couldn't purge. And I needed to. I wanted to so bad. Thank God for Kambo. Mateo said that Kambo and ayahuasca are best friends because they live in the same environment. So a lot of people stayed after for Kambo, even though we hadn't slept yet. And I finally did purge with Kambo, and I felt so much better. And man, I will never forget these experiences and what they taught me and what they showed me. And I just feel so grateful to be able to come back to Austin and carry this knowledge with me, and to know that I have so much more of this life to live, and I have so many things to do, and that I'm no longer going to let fear hold me back, and I'm no longer going to put others' needs before my own. And that is a promise that I make to myself and to you and to the medicine, because I am not the same person that I was. I'm not even remotely. My heart is so open, but in a different way, in such a different way. And I'm no longer going to call myself an introvert, because I connected with 10 new people that I never thought I would, as if we were family. And I'm different. and I'm gonna live my life differently. I took a nap yesterday when I got home, and I dreamed of all the people that I met. And it's so hard to be home, but I'm gonna make the best of it. When it comes to finances, I've put myself in a really huge bind, but I'm ready to step up. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful to start work tomorrow, and I'm grateful to rack it up and start saving and pay off debts, and then I'm gonna start traveling again, and I'm gonna see the world, and I'm gonna do all the things that I wanna do, and that I don't need anybody, because the things and the people that I do need will be there, because the universe never fails me and never has. And I'm gonna start trusting myself. And I just have so much gratitude and love for all these people. And if you ever consider doing a retreat, I highly recommend Casa del Sol, because you're getting so much more than just ayahuasca. You're getting love, you're getting delicious food, you're getting kindness, you're getting an experience, and I'll never stop being grateful. And yeah, I'm sure there's more to come as I integrate this process, but I wanted to share this all while it's fresh on my mind, and just send some love. So thank you for listening, and yeah, it's time to live this life in the best way I know possible. No more holding back, no more letting fear dictate my decisions, no more loving others before I love myself. And that's my message. So thank you again for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If this video resonates, please like it, comment if you have questions, share, all the things. So thank you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't mention this. I almost forgot that tomorrow the full moon is in Pisces, which is my moon sign, which is all about being dreamy and pretty much just puts you in your feels more than most full moons. My moon sign is in Pisces, and it's also very common to feel really tired and just very head in the clouds type of energy. So if you have the time and you have the space, I highly recommend you write down a list of the things you want to let go of and that you want to make space for. Write that list down, find a safe spot and burn that list. And then take a hot bath and just soak and let that full moon energy cleanse away all the negative thoughts and feelings and emotions. And really make space for yourself. This is a really good time for self-love, self-care, and reflecting on the beautiful life and the things that no longer serve you, and visualize yourself letting them go. So highly recommend it. It's gonna be a very powerful moon, and I'm already feeling it, and it makes sense as to why this integration has been heavier than I anticipated and why I've been sleeping nonstop. So make time to love yourself, fill your cup first, and happy full moon in Pisces.
like holding it still on like the back of a boat or something. And this is just like the back of a truck is going to be a little bit of a different experience.
For just a second, think about your dream life. Imagine it. Feel it. Now come back and listen to what I'm about to say. You have the power to make all of that happen. It's probably going to take work.